Genesis North.
Ringside Report MMA, it's showtime.
Let's go!
Why mess around? You know? Whoa.
Wow.
Happy birthday, Fred.
Happy birthday,
Thanks.
Freddie.
It's going to be Fred's birthday in 2 days, September 30th. Did you know that, AJ?
Yep.
Were you aware?
Of course, man. I'm the first one, then it's Freddie, and then it's you, man.
Yeah.
The
It's the Ringside
trifecta.
Report birthday week, right?
Yeah, because
It
we
is,
should
man.
say happy birthday, Dave, also, because it's going to be like you're not you're going to be on the air tomorrow, actually. But with us, you won't be on the air before your birthday.
That's true. Huh. Look at us
So
getting
happy
older.
birthday, Dave.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Look at the gray in
Shit
Fred's
happens,
beard.
dude.
Look at us all getting older. Oh, my
Listen,
God.
man, it could be worse.
What happened? AJ, I remember I met you. You were youngish. Oh, birthday
Look at
cake
that.
and everything. Nice.
With the little candle and all, Freddie. That candle is sticking up pretty high, man.
Yeah. And the Tonight Show, it's a lot of out with the old, in with the new. A lot of us old guys are getting kicked out of the UFC, and the new
Jeez,
guys are
man.
coming through, right? I see a couple fights that the UFC made for UFC 296, and it definitely feels like a couple retirement parties that Dana White and the boys are planning,
He's setting up.
you know? Wonder Boy Thompson and Shavkat Rakhmonov is official. Wonder Boy said he previously had turned down that fight because he just didn't know who Shavkat was, but Shavkat has made a name for himself. And
Big
a
time.
pretty dangerous name, and he's a pretty dangerous dude, and he's going to get a big name in Wonder Boy Thompson at UFC 296 December 16th. And they also booked Paddy Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson.
Who is Usman
That's
fighting
going to be a good
also?
one.
Didn't they announce a fight for Kamaru Usman? Or it's a
I will
rumored
tell
fight?
you. I don't know. Kamaru Usman.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, I don't know. But it
It
seems
might
like
be just a rumor, Dan.
yeah, I don't know. I don't see any fights for him officially.
Man, think about this, Dave. Talk about old, man. Talk about old. On this day in 2014, Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier met for the first time. It's already been since 2014. 10
Yeah.
entry of that fight. Crazy, man.
Actually, they did. Dana announced that Bilal Muhammad and Kamaru Usman would
Say
be
what?
fighting.
Ooh. When?
Today, I think, or yesterday, he announced it.
No, but when's the fight?
Oh, when's the fight?
Is that also on that same card?
There's no dates for now. I think like
Hmm.
Dana basically said that's the plan, is to have Usman and Bilal Muhammad fight.
Interesting.
That's going
That's
to
a
be
big
good.
fight.
Yeah, because like Stephen Thompson wants a title shot if he beats Shavkat, but Usman Muhammad also is definitely in. Or is that that might be a 185 then? Usman might be getting up to 185 because Muhammad's a 185er.
No, he's 170.
No, he's a 170. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Usman against Muhammad, that might be the next title contender. Maybe it's Stephen Thompson and Shavkat, but welterweight division right now is stacked.
Yeah, and Leon Edwards is going to fight Kobe Covington. That's next. When is that?
What?
Soon, right?
It's soon. Like the next
Right.
pay-per-view is Islam against Charles Oliveira. That's the Abu Dhabi pay-per-view.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
going to be
think
crazy.
I think the one after that might be the Leon Edwards Kobe Covington fight.
But isn't that the John Jones fight?
To 295?
296. Oh no, that's in December. That's the card we're talking about with Wonder Boy and
Yep,
Shavkat and all that. Leon
that's a
Edwards
nice card,
versus
man.
Kobe Covington is the main event in UFC 296 in Vegas in
96, yeah.
December. Then they got Pantoja defending against Brandon Royval for the flyweight title. Tony Ferguson, Paddy Pimblett, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Wonderboy Thompson, and Ian Machado Gary against Vicente Luque.
That's gonna be a nice one. Nice card,
solid.
man, to end
Yeah,
the
it's really
year,
good.
man.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're gonna get a few surprises on that card.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Who knows where that Kamaru Usman fight winds up? Maybe that'll be on UFC 296 too.
Yep. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, they could give us a 6th fight, man. Main card.
Maybe, or just bump one of those fights to the prelims. But
Who would you
that's
put,
an
man?
interesting
They're all
setup for
good,
the
man.
welterweight division. Like, they got some good fights. It does seem like with the Tony Ferguson fight, the Tony Ferguson Paddy Pimblett fight, maybe more than the Wonderboy Thompson and Shavkat fight. Like, Tony's getting set up. Everybody in MMA went, what? Why is that fight happening? Right when Paddy announced Tony Ferguson, the Paddy versus Tony Ferguson was announced, people like didn't really understand it. Among those people, I was like, why is this happening? Paddy Pimblett's going up, Tony Ferguson's going down. UFC is just kind of adding to Paddy's record, building the name, doing what they do, but it just seemed inappropriate. Tony Ferguson coming off that fight with Bobby Green, and he didn't look good in that fight. Why would you even fight Paddy Pimblett? It doesn't even make sense as far as rankings, as far as like where they are in their careers. And then some people are kind of tripping over themselves going, no, this is actually a tough fight for Paddy Pimblett because Tony Ferguson's really tough and da-da-da. And I'm like, man, he's what, 38, 39? He's clearly in the twilight of his career, and 39. Paddy Pimblett is just getting better. Why?
I agree, but I'll tell you what, man. Tony Ferguson with a 6-fight losing streak, like pretty much anybody you put in front of him that has a name, people would be saying that, because unless you put him against a complete no-name, which might just be a hard fight also, because it might just be somebody with a lot of talent that people don't know. So you might as well put him against a Paddy Pimblett. And I like Paddy Pimblett. I feel he still has things to prove, man. His last fight, his decision win was okay. He had a good fight, but it wasn't the most impressive win. And I feel, show me you could dispose of a Tony Ferguson, man. And yeah, Paddy Pimblett shouldn't be like struggling to get past that challenge. That's a challenge that he has to dominate. I don't know if he has to finish, but he definitely has to be dominating, because Tony Ferguson has just looked awful. But that's Tony Ferguson right now. Unfortunately, I know he doesn't want to hear it, but I think his better days are definitely behind him.
But just as far as the matchup goes, right? Ferguson's lost 6 in a row. He's 39 years old. Paddy Pimblett has won 6 in a row. He's 28 years old, undefeated in the UFC. It's like,
it's old school versus new school.
Yeah, that's kind of, but it's also like, hey, let's feed an old one to the new one to kind of make the name bigger.
It is.
Freddie said it right. Like, you have no choice, man. No matter who you put in front of Tony, people are going to be like complaining. But let's not forget, it's Tony Ferguson. His name is still.
I disagree with that. Man. Like, Bobby Green made sense. Bobby Green is a guy in his age category, kind of, lower on the level. Not, top 15. He made sense. Say it again?
Bobby Green has a fight.
Yeah, I know, but Bobby Green just fought Tony Ferguson, I'm saying. But AJ's like, whoever you put in front of Tony is going to be like, what? But there are guys out there you could put in front of Tony and say, okay, this is fine. This is a reasonable matchup. Paddy Pimblett just kind of, it seems like a weird matchup based on where they are in their careers.
I just think marketing-wise, it makes sense. I mean, you have like 2 big names to end the year, and that's all it is. This is a show fight. This is a UFC, man. I'm giving you an entertainment fight. Everybody knows Tony. Everybody knows Paddy. It's U.S. versus Ireland. And the thing is that everybody's going to want to show up to this fight. Because, again, you never know with Tony Ferguson, man. Anything can happen. But let's be honest, it's a feed fight, and it's probably a retirement fight. And I think this is how Tony Ferguson is going to leave the UFC. I think this is going to be his fight. He's going to end on that note. And I think Paddy Pimblett is going to be able to win this very easily. But you know what? You never know with Tony, man. You got to beat him to kill him and to win, because he'll go the distance.
But Dana White was asked about the fight, and he's like, what happens if Paddy beats Tony? And he's like, well, hopefully he would retire then. Like, hopefully that would be the thing that gets him to retire. And it just feels like the UFC wants Tony Ferguson to retire. They don't want him fighting anymore, and this is kind of serving him up because the UFC is like pro wrestling. It's the same thing. It's all the same company now. The UFC and pro wrestling, what they do is they take their older stars and have them lose to younger stars because the younger stars need those names on their list of victories to make them bigger stars going forward.
But listen, it's not only Dana White.
Yeah, it's fight sports, but sometimes it's so obvious that you go, come on, guys.
I agree. The matchup doesn't make much sense, on paper. But I don't hate it because, like I say, I haven't been that impressed with Paddy Pimblett. And look, if Tony Ferguson's going to have a redemption story, maybe it's against a Paddy Pimblett. Now, I doubt it. I got Paddy winning and probably winning decisively. But that's what he needs to do. Like I say, he can't look like soft against a Tony Ferguson who's looked awful for many, many fights now.
Look, I like Paddy. I think he has impressed me. I kind of disagree with you on that, Freddie, but I'm going to tell you one thing. All of us agree on one thing, is that every fight that Tony has had in the last little while, we've always said, I think this guy needs to retire. I think the UFC needs to step in and just retire him because I don't want to see Tony really going down a barrel because we've seen some pretty, why
hasn't the UFC cut him? Like we've seen UFC cut guys after 2-3 losses. How come Tony gets 6 fights?
I don't understand either. I mean, every fight that we saw with Tony at the end,
I know why.
Seems
pretty clear to me, guys. And why does the UFC want him to retire? Why don't they want to release him? They could retire him. I don't know. They could retire him, but they don't want to retire him. They want him to retire so that he retires and he's still under contract. Mm-hmm. So Tony Ferguson is a UFC property. If Tony Ferguson decides, and this is why they sign guys to 8-fight contracts when you go, I don't think he's got 8 fights left in him, right? That happens all the time, right? Derek Lewis just signed an 8-fight contract and you go, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe Derek Lewis because he's an active and crazy dude, right? But the UFC locks people down into contracts. So Tony Ferguson is a star, and they don't want him going somewhere else. It's just like what WWE would do. It's just like any, sports company would do. They lock you down into the contract. So they go, we're going to offer you fights, and they're going to be real tough fights. That's probably what happened with this Paddy the Baddy situation. They have Tony Ferguson locked in for X number of fights. Didn't he just sign a new contract not long ago for 8 fights or something? Man, I got to look that up. But that's what they do, right? They'll sign you to an 8-fight contract when you're 38 years old and you think, this is great. This is longevity. I'm going to fight this out. I'm going to make all this money. And then they start offering you the fights. And the fights they offer you are terrible matchups for you. And you get beat. And you get beat, and you get beat until you go, I don't want to do this anymore. And then UFC goes, all right, cool. We have made 3 guys off of you, 4 guys, 5 guys, 6 guys off of you. And now you can sit home. It's cool.
I got to go pick up my...
Yeah, Fred's got to go pick up a delivery, right? But what I'm trying to explain to you, AJ, and to everybody watching, right, is that they'll lock you down into these contracts. And then... say Tony Ferguson loses to Paddy the Baddy, and he wants to retire, but he still has 2 fights left on his contract. He could retire from the UFC, but he can't go fight for PFL. He can't go box Jake Paul. He can't do anything because he's still under contract to the UFC, and I believe that the contract is 5 years, and then you're totally free if you're retired or whatever, and it's just they lock you in. And this is what I think Francis Ngannou was explaining a little bit on Joe Rogan about how the contracts are structured and how they kind of lock you into these fights and then they extend you. And it was funny seeing Joe Rogan kind of hear the shady business practices of the UFC and have to go, wow, like he didn't know that they were doing any of this. It's like, come on, Joe. You work there. You've been there long enough. You kind of see how it goes. Everybody who observes the sport as closely as we do, who's watching the ins and outs and the day-to-day, you can kind of see oh, this is a weird thing. Remember George St. Pierre, at one point he said, I'm a free agent. And then UFC's like, no, you're not. He's like, well, you guys haven't offered me a fight in the next number of days. And they're like, well, too bad. You can't go fight somewhere else. George was going to leave and go fight somewhere else at one point. He did like an interview. He's like, I'm a free agent. I can go anywhere I want. And then a couple days later, it was like, oh, it turns out my lawyers misread the deal. Because the UFC just locks you down. They keep you. And that might be the situation with Tony Ferguson. They're just like, well, he is a star. He could go make money for somebody else. So let's just keep making money off him. And that's why he's fighting Paddy the Baddy. Right?
Yeah, makes sense, man. Makes total sense. Freddie, you're back.
That's how
Did
these
you tip
things
the guy
work.
at least? No, you're absolutely right, man. But it's all about money in the end, and it makes sense, man. They lock him in till he retires, and then after that, man, you're still under contract. It's
You could retire from the UFC,
very-
but if you retire from the UFC and you're under contract to the UFC, you're retired from combat sports unless the UFC says you can go. Unless they give you permission, which they often do not. George St. Pierre was going to go box Oscar De La Hoya. UFC said, no, you're not.
It's probably a good thing for George. But let's
George
be
St.
honest.
Pierre has come back to competition. Under what banner? Under
UFC?
what? UFC Fight Pass Invitational Grappling.
Right.
Because he's still locked down, probably.
Mm-hmm. Mind you, that's something that I can see him doing really well in.
Yeah, but that's not
right.
the point,
He's
AJ. That's not the point.
No, but you're right. He's locked into the organization. Absolutely. But you know what?
He'd do well in MMA, too, if he was fighting in the UFC. That's not the point.
Yeah, pretty much. But
the point is they get stuck. These guys get stuck. And they tried to stick Francis Ngannou with an extra contract, and he's like, no, I'm going to fight this contract out. That's why they really hate it when you do that. When you fight your contract out and you win, they're like, then they, try to sign you through any kind of means. And then when you don't sign, they're like, he sucked anyways. It's like, he's a heavyweight champion of the world. You're telling me he sucked? Yeah, he was terrible. John Jones would have destroyed him. Well, wouldn't it be cool to find out? Nah, we know. It's like, well, we kind of, we think maybe I might bet on John Jones, but I still would like to see the fight. I don't know. I'm not sure. I think Tyson Fury will beat Francis Ngannou. Say it again.
He doesn't want to fight. He doesn't want to be challenged.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Francis Ngannou doesn't want to challenge. He's going to go box Tyson Fury in his first pro boxing fight ever. What? Oh, he doesn't like a challenge.
Yeah.
Tyson
Fighting
Fury's
for the
easy
heavyweight
money.
champion.
What?
Yeah, exactly. The biggest prize that you can ever get is boxing heavyweight, man. Like in the names of Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, Mike Tyson, Tyson Fury. Wow.
Imagine going up against the heavyweight champion of the world. One of the best heavyweight champions of all time at this point in Tyson Fury. And he's a monster. He's bigger than you somehow. And it's your first pro boxing match. Yeah, Francis doesn't want to challenge.
And then Ngannou said that he expects to make more money from that fight than all his UFC fight combined.
Yeah,
I believe that.
Makes sense.
Yep.
It makes sense. That's boxing for you. Listen, the promoters are the ones that market their own fights. They can carry in a lot of money. That's why De La Hoya was doing that, and Floyd Mayweather, man. They're their own promoters, man. They take in all the cash, so they can provide a lot of cash to the opponent as well. And I agree, Ngannou's going to make a hell of a lot of money, just like Conor did, and that's why Conor's in the position that he's in.
Yeah, but Francis is doing it better. Francis is doing it better. Francis Ngannou is the example for all MMA fighters as the guy who did it all and did it big and won. Francis Ngannou has already won. He doesn't have to do the fight. He's won. He did it. He fought out his contract with the UFC. They didn't offer him what he wanted. He felt disrespected by the company. He fought out his deal. He beat everybody. He walked out as the heavyweight champion of the world. And the UFC said, whatever. He's not going to do anything. And people were like, oh, Francis, they offered him $10 million to fight John Jones. He fumbled the bag, right? And then he's fighting Tyson Fury October 28th in Saudi Arabia.
It's crazy.
Come on.
Listen, man. Listen. And the thing with Ngannou, Man, you're right, man. He outsmarted the UFC.
He outsmarted everybody in the fight game.
He outsmarted everybody.
Because
Everybody.
boxing people, MMA people, us, we all thought maybe he should have taken that UFC deal. Because is Tyson Fury really going to fight him? Like, Tyson Fury's retired, right? There's good boxing challenges out there. Anthony Joshua, Usyk, right? For Tyson Fury. Maybe he'd take one of those fights over Francis Ngannou. It didn't really make sense. October 28th, it's happening. They've had press conferences. It's signed. It's done. It's done.
He looks good, man. He looks good. And you know what? You know what is incredible? That if he does beat Tyson Fury, which I honestly believe he will. And the reason why I say this is the guy is training beyond belief. The guy's training that I've seen him doing, not only with Mike Tyson, but just his preparation and everything. This guy's taking this fight so serious. And I said it many times on our show that his dream was to be the heavyweight champion of the world. And you got to remember the perseverance of an individual that basically leaves Cameroon, in some village that doesn't even have water, literally, and he walks 3 countries.
Yeah.
He walked 3 countries, man, to get to France and to be able to have an opportunity and then become the UFC heavyweight champion of the world. And now he has the opportunity to have the dream that he wanted to, because he used to look up to Muhammad Ali. This guy's deep down desire to win is so strong that if Tyson Fury doesn't have all his pieces in place and all the check marks in place, and to have that gut of a killer instinct, he will be knocked out. And I'm telling you today, on today's show, that on October 28th, Tyson Fury is going to hit the canvas, and he's not going to come up like The Undertaker did in all his fights.
Yeah.
He's going to stay down, he's going to be buried down. And Tyson Fury will be the heavyweight champion of the world, and they're going to make movies about this guy.
Ngannou will be heavyweight champion.
Ngannou will be heavyweight champion of the world, and they will make movies, documentaries, and this guy will be considered probably the greatest combat athlete in the history. From the gladiator times to the modern times, we're going to be talking Francis Ngannou, 2-time champion in 2 different sports. This is unbelievable, and I think it's going to happen. Man, it's a legend.
He's a movie.
He is, man. He's like Rocky Marciano. He's like, he's Muhammad Ali, man. He's
legendary.
He's all of them, man.
When they tell his story,
all of them. It's crazy.
When they tell his story, it's going to be, people will be like, no way it's true. But it is. It's all true. Legend.
He walked 3 countries, man. And not only is he a legend.
Fred, this guy withstands a lot. Like, I'm usually, when AJ goes on these types of things, I go, come on, AJ. Everything within me wants to go, AJ, you big dosser. Tyson Fury's going to get him. Tyson Fury always calls people big dosser. What's a dosser anyways? I don't know. It's some sort of English thing.
I don't know, but that just felt like
you
another
big dosser. What?
Where he just talked. It just felt like another AJ soliloquy where he talks to himself and he just like tries to convince himself.
I'm
but
convinced.
I'll tell you what, man. I'm seeing here like this week supposedly, Ngannou had an open workout with Tyson, and people weren't really impressed with his open workout. Yeah, right. Man.
They're liars, man.
I'm telling you, man. People are saying,
I know, I saw it.
10 minutes, and you're all like tired, man. What's that, man?
That's not true, man. He was probably training 18 hours before that.
They're doing great.
Oh, my friend, Freddie, I'm telling you, don't believe like the fake news, man. Because I'm telling you,
if you're Fury, man, who do you want to fight, man? You want to fight a guy like Usyk, who's a real boxer, or you want to fight a guy that's not a real boxer? And then Ngannou's a great fighter. He's not a boxer, man. So I got Fury, man.
You should.
Fury took the smart fight. Also, we should have seen it coming. We were wrong when we said Ngannou wasn't going anywhere. But the fight makes sense for Ngannou because he's going to make a shitload of money. And the fight makes sense also for Fury because he's going to make a shitload of money. And it's probably the least dangerous challenge in front of him.
But Francis
going to pay him.
Francis has that power, baby. He's got the power of the punch.
Listen, Ngannou likes the money. When you come from poverty and the amount of money that he puts into his village, you should see the things that this guy does back in his country, man. He's doing so much, building schools, doing this, whole houses. This is the difference. He doesn't care about the money.
Good question. He doesn't. How's that help him to box?
this is how it's going to help him to box. He doesn't care about the money like you think. He's going to make a shitload of money, more than the UFC, but it's not the money that drives him. It's that desire and that determination, man, that will make him win the heavyweight champion of the world. And I'm telling you right now, there's a difference. Like I said, if all those checks are not in place for Tyson Fury and he takes Ngannou lightly, I seen his workout regimen like for the last while now. And every time, so that's when I saw that article of those guys like making fun of Ngannou in his training camp like he's nothing. Yeah, you say that to Mike Tyson to his face. I guarantee you that won't happen. And chances are you won't say that to Ngannou in his face because Ngannou's training. I saw his boxing, man. His combinations,
which
his
boxing
movement.
champion has Tyson trained?
None. And that's the difference. That's the beauty of it. Mike Tyson said that he would never train anybody. So
Rookie coach, rookie boxer.
Yeah, with Custamato as your coach in the past, Mike Tyson, you know what? I'm going to tell you this. Mike Tyson said he would never coach anyone. For him to be coaching Ngannou is because he believes in this guy's dreams. I'm telling you, it's going to be fireworks October 28th. It's going to be Halloween, man, early. You know what I mean? The boogeyman's coming, and the Undertaker is staying down. It's not happening. Good night, Tyson Fury.
I'll watch it.
I'm excited. I'm so excited for this fight.
Dude.
It's going to be
I've
so
never been
good.
so hyped.
Oof.
You
There's
know,
something
it's
about
crazy.
Francis. He's a special man. He's a special individual, and it's a special fight. And I really don't think Tyson Fury is taking him seriously. I don't think he is.
He's not.
And I've seen Tyson Fury knock down and get back up, but I know that when you get knocked down, sometimes you don't get back up. You know, sometimes when you get knocked down several times, it's like, hey, your body says, we can't get back up anymore, man. You know, he did retire from boxing. He did a Netflix show. You guys watch At Home with the Furies? I've watched several episodes. It's not great, but I kind of like watching it because I like to see Tyson Fury operate. You know, I like to see Tyson Fury at home. I like to see what Tyson Fury is like as a person, and I think you get a pretty good sense from this TV show. There's a Netflix show about Tyson Fury and his family.
I think he's a cool guy.
He's got 6 kids.
Does he? I didn't know that, man.
Yeah, 6
Damn,
kids.
someone doesn't need Viagra.
A wife he's been with since he's like 17 or something, you know?
Good for him, man. No, he's a really cool guy, man. One of the greatest heavyweight boxers, you know, of all time.
Yep.
You know, I don't take that away from Tyson Fury. The guy is amazing, man.
He's amazing.
If he wasn't fighting Ngannou just because you look, he's not afraid of anybody, Tyson Fury. There's no doubt about it. The only thing that I'm worried about is that he's not taking Ngannou seriously as he should.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
It's weird, man. Like, my mind says Tyson Fury, he's going to win for sure. But there's something in my gut that goes, no. Francis. Francis will do it. He will get it done. There is something that is Francis Ngannou. There is a force that is Francis Ngannou that will find a way to get this done. And then he will be standing on top of the world, on top of the combat world, as UFC heavyweight champion, undefeated, and as the heavyweight champion of the world in pro boxing. Like, double champ, killing combat sports, #1, undisputed, maybe the greatest fighter in any sport ever, if he can do that. If he can knock out Tyson Fury, man. And he'll be so rich, too, because the rematch. Ooh, man, the rematch would be so huge. If he beats him, you got to do the rematch. And, man, the
100%.
money in that will be nuts. The money for this is going to be good. The money for the rematch, if he can get the win. Whatever, if Francis can somehow win, his whole life goes, right? Explosion. And whatever he does next is like, cash it in. It's like $1 billion. You're getting a bill. You know, it's over.
Yeah. The pay-per-view sales on that is going to go through the roof. I mean, it's going to be insane. Like, it's going to be where people, it's going to be I don't know, man. It's going to be crazy on the 28th with pay-per-view sales.
But I don't know about the 28th. I don't know how big that fight is going to be because I don't know. I don't know how seriously people are taking it, but I know Tyson Fury is a draw. I don't know if MMA fans are going to get behind Francis Ngannou like they should and buy the pay-per-view and tune in. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe. I think so. I mean, if he was part of the UFC still in some way or another, it might bring a bigger draw because there'd be more marketing on the UFC side and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I just think, yeah, you're right. But I still think records are going to be broken on
the
October
promo for
28th.
this has not been great. You know?
No.
I'm seeing way more online buzz-wise for Dylan Dennis and Logan Paul than I'm seeing for Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury. You know what I'm saying?
I'll be right back, guys. Give me one quick
Where's
second.
AJ
Hold on a
right
second.
now?
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Fred, you know what I'm saying about that, the Dylan Dennis Logan Paul fight? Like, everybody's talking way more about that than the heavyweight champion of the UFC versus the heavyweight champion of boxing. They're talking more about a YouTube guy versus a jiu-jitsu guy boxing than the goddamn heavyweight champions of their respective sports.
Like, I agree there's more talk about it, but I don't know if that means it's going to be more successful, because the reason Dylan Dennis and Logan Paul, there's a lot of talk, is about, like, you know, the trash talking and where Dylan Dennis is taking this discussion. So that creates a lot of discussion. But will that translate in sales? I'm not 100% sure. Whereas I know people want to see Fury fight. I know people want to see Ngannou fight. So I would think, like, pay-per-view wise, Fury and Ngannou is going to be a bigger success. But you never know, man. Logan Paul comes in with a lot of like followers, so
Yeah.
who knows?
I'm seeing people in the chat. I see Angelo Contagonis. I see Leor. What's up, guys? Shout out to those guys. Angelo and Leor joined over at join.ringsidereport.net. What do you guys think? What are you more excited about, Logan Paul, Dylan Dennis, or Francis Ngannou, Tyson Fury? Let me know in the chat over on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and Kick, and Rumble, my Rumblers. Shout out to Helium, Miss Brooklyn, CSL Lorne. I see you all in the chat there over on YouTube, tuning in live on a Thursday night. Last week we killed it, guys. Fred, you weren't on the show last week. You missed out on the destruction because you would have killed it too, Fred. I believe in you.
Oh, yeah.
I believe in us. You know, the team was
made
strong
money,
last
man.
week.
Listen,
Leor
man,
says he doesn't care about either fight. He's waiting for Charles versus Islam. Yeah, that's going to be big. Although,
That's
I
gonna
don't
be
know.
big. You're
I
right.
got to tell you, Leor, I think I'm more interested in Fury versus Ngannou than Charles versus Islam, because I've seen Charles versus Islam before, and I'm pretty sure I know how it's going to go. Like, I don't know. Like, I've seen this movie before, you know? Is this a part 2 where they have a twist at the end? I don't think so. I think it's going to go exactly the same as the first one, you know? It might be fun. Like Home Alone 1, you know?
Back to the Future.
He gets Marvin Harry in the end. Home Alone 2, you figure he's going to get Marvin Harry, but you stick around. You want to see how. You want to see the destruction.
Exactly.
You want to see the violence, you know? That's
But you
kind of
know
how
he's
I
gonna get
feel
him.
about Charles versus Islam 2. It's like, yeah, I'll watch it. I like the violence. It's like Home Alone 2.
That's a good one, man. I like that.
Charles versus Islam 2, Lost in New York. Angelo Contagonis says he's more interested in
Abu
Ngannou
Dhabi.
versus Fury than, Angelo. I know you don't like the Paul brothers, so I'm not surprised. But Logan Paul's in WWE, you know? He's got some of that WWE credibility. For me, anyways. For some wrestling fans. So our parlays killed it last week, guys. Destruction. Team Dave, Team AJ. AJ, your parlay, I think, was even bigger
5-5.
stakes than mine.
Yep. I hit my 5-fight again, man. My 5-fight parlay came out. It was beautiful. Hopefully, you know, Pat and everyone else, man, were able to bet on us because we paid out, man. And it was a nice payout. A couple of underdogs. And you know what? Everything worked out for us, including the prelims. I mean, you called some prelims that came out as well.
Yeah.
It was just a good return, man. I think $20 paid out on mine around the 200 something mark,
Yeah.
260 somewhere around there.
Yeah.
You know, so listen, man, and it wasn't easy to pick that fight because you know it was going back and forth in a couple of fights. But man, what a great card! It was fun. You know,
Your parlay,
even-
let me tell you. Your parlay was all winning, and you had, let's see here, you had Mateus Gamrot, who we'll talk about that fight in a second. You had Bryce Mitchell, who we should also talk about, who won against Dan Ige by unanimous decision.
Jesus.
You had Marina Rodriguez, who
Yeah.
beat up Michelle Watterson, just demolished her. That was a one-sided beatdown.
Should've been
Brian
stopped.
Battle, who had a really nice choke of AJ Fletcher, and Charles Jourdain, another great
the
win
guillotine.
for Charles with the guillotine. Brazilian top team, Fabio Holanda in his corner. Charles with a first-round submission win over Ricardo
Beautiful.
Ramos, and that pulled out the AJ parlay. All 5 fights won, which is pretty awesome. Good for you, AJ. And
Thank
you
you,
got
man.
a little good for Charles as well. Congratulations to
Oh,
Montreal's
yeah.
own Charles Jourdain. Really cool to see him get another win in the UFC. Just keeps on rolling. Main event: Mateusz Gamrot, Rafael Fiziev. Now, I don't care what you say about the first round, AJ. Fiziev won the first round. Okay, all 3 judges gave the first round to Fiziev. Gamrot was not looking so great in the first round. Doesn't mean anything because he won the fight by TKO because Fiziev's knee just completely exploded.
Oof, that was nasty, man.
He threw a kick and his leg that he was balancing on kind of twisted wrong and he fell over, and that was the fight in the second round. Worked for me, though, because I had Gamrot in my parlay, too. I gave you Muhammad Usman, Mateusz Gamrot, Brian Battle, and Marina Rodriguez. Plus 729 was the parlay for me last weekend, so that also came through. And, Gamrot over Fiziev. We got a little bit of luck on our parlay there, right? Because Fiziev,
Well,
I mean,
sometimes
who knows
luck
how the
pays,
fight would have
man.
turned out? Who knows how the fight would have turned out? But the finish, the way we won was kind of like, oh well,
Well,
you know,
yes and no, man, because the way Gamrot was defending himself in his stances, he was preparing for Fiziev's kicks because he has these deadly kicks. So he had that drop elbow come in. Apparently he was practicing because he knew that kick was coming, and the way he blocked it was enough for that leg to kind of like buckle back. And I wasn't sure if it was the tibia that broke or the ankle that broke. The knee, after the replay, and we saw it in slow motion, we saw the knee kind of like, dislocate. And it was just nasty. It was, a guy like Fiziev doesn't go down, in the way he does if it wasn't something serious. And that was it. It was enough for us to win that parlay, but I don't want to see a guy's career end because of I was getting lucky with a parlay. That's for sure. But he looked like he's going to be okay. But obviously there's going to be a lot of rehabilitation in the future for this guy.
He's going to have surgery on his knee. I mean, it's...
Yeah. It sucks,
rough.
man, but this is the sport, man. This is violent chess, or like George calls it. It's like, it's a hurting sport, and sometimes you hurt. Like even the Marina Rodriguez fight, I'm like, Jesus,
Michelle Watterson took a
the karate
real
hottie
beating.
became like the karate scary, man, because she looked nasty at the end. And that's the end of her. And did she retire at this point? Did she take the retirement?
I don't think so. I didn't see anything about it.
I don't
Well, it
think
should
so.
have been.
People said she should, but
Yeah, I'm one
we'll
of them,
see,
man.
man.
I think.
mean,
Okay, come
I'm
on.
always like, look, she didn't look good. She got destroyed, but I'm not a guy that wants to tell people when to retire, man. If she could get a good paycheck doing what she does, go get the paychecks. They won't last forever. But yeah, that was
But it was
a
rough.
bad.
Yeah, but that was also a 16-3 fighter in Marina Rodriguez taking on an 18-11 fighter at the time, right? You're 16-3 taking on 18-11. It was a mismatch. When I saw the fight, I was like, I think I said Marina Rodriguez was a slam dunk, like she was a lock of the night, like she was for sure winning that fight. I mean, that's what should have happened. The UFC, maybe again with Michelle Watterson, is like, hey, we're kind of pushing you out the door. You're not getting the hint. Here's a hint.
Let's help an up and comer. Let's help somebody that's going to be there for a couple of years still.
Well, Marina Rodriguez is 36, but she has no signs of slowing down.
No, man. She looked amazing.
Yeah,
she
looks
was.
great.
She looked.
a contender,
She looked.
so.
Yeah, she is a contender still. She is one of the top.
Oh yeah.
At 115.
Very scary fighter. Man.
I also gave you a couple prelim fights there. Tim Means over Andre Fialio. I gave
Angry
you Tim
Bird.
Means last week. He was an underdog. He came through with a TKO win. He was pretty dominant in that win too. And Cody Brundage, I said, was a good underdog pick. He was a huge underdog. It was like plus 300 or something. Like, he was a big dog, and he won by disqualification.
Yeah,
so
that was
worked
crazy.
out. I think I bet like $2 and won 8 or something on little Cody Brundage. It's like, here, throw a couple and win it back. So it was a big weekend last weekend. Every fight I gave you pretty much won.
Well,
I should have done like
locks.
I should have done like an 11-fight parlay. I would have really cared.
You should have, man. Because to be honest, we called a couple of locks. We called a couple of locks. You called Mohammed Usman, which I agreed with you, and I called Mizuki Inoue. I said, this girl, man, like, she's just gonna, smash Hannah.
Yeah.
And I said, that's my lock. So if we did go with the prelims and with the main card, it would have probably been like a close to a 10-fight win, man. Tim Means was on there. You called it Cody Brundage. That's the one where I was a little nervous. Like, I didn't want to go there, but I was on board with you with Usman. And Usman, man, looked good.
Yeah, Usman looked really good. I was very confident with Usman. Brundage was just like, here, throw a couple. He wasn't in my parlay, but I thought it was worth a look. He won, but he won by disqualification because of some illegal strikes to the back of the head. But that was last weekend. We did really, really well. Your parlay won. My parlay won. We had multiple fight parlays with good payouts, and they both paid out. So hopefully people bet with us as they continue to bet with us over at bet99.ringsidereport.net. We got merch, too. We're going to start giving out Bet99 T-shirts that we got.
Nice.
So we're going to start just giving those away to you
nice
guys watching the show. Yeah, I got plenty for you. I got some for you, AJ, if you want one.
Yeah, they're for sure, man. They're such nice T-shirts.
Yeah,
I see people walking around, man, at work or on the streets, man. I'm like, we should.
I got
have
you.
We're,
I got you, AJ. Don't you worry.
Bet99.
Bet99 sent me a brick of T-shirts. They sent me a huge package of T-shirts just this week. It's a brick of them, just tons. So
but do they got Johnny North size?
Yeah.
I
got all the sizes: small, medium, large, and extra large,
and super slim for Johnny, so he could, show his abs. And
Johnny's XL, baby. Johnny's a big man.
Yeah,
Johnny's got a match this weekend.
That's right, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's this weekend, so we should all go. Johnny, get us tickets.
He's got me tickets. I already have tickets. So.
What?
Yeah,
Johnny, what the hell, man?
Sorry, AJ. I've already made plans to go. I thought you were making your own plans to go.
Well, you know what? I'm going to come, and I'm going to bring PR Mark. Freddie, I know, is not coming. Freddie, it's Sunday. Forget it. So PR Mark and myself are going to be there. We're going to be in-house.
What do you guys think, Fred? We didn't get your thoughts last week on the Jiri Prochazka-Alex Pereira fight made for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship in the co-main event of that John Jones-Stipe Miocic card, UFC 295, coming up in November. Less than 2 months away. Less than 2 months away from the return of John Jones, which gets me so excited. I love seeing John Jones fight. He's one of my favorite fighters in the octagon of all time. Got to specify in the octagon. But the co-main event now for the light heavyweight title, the vacant belt, Jiri versus Pereira. I think that's going to be a fireworks fight.
That's going to be a great card, period. I mean, if both those fights don't get canceled, that's there's not a lot of events we've seen two big title fights like that, like the heavyweight and the light heavyweight, and both are very good matchups. I think I'm gonna go with Alex Pereira because Jiri has been out for a while, and supposedly his injury was a pretty serious one. So I'm gonna go with the guy that's been super active in like the past, ever since he's been in the UFC. He's been active, he's been fighting, and if he pulls it off, it's gonna be quite the story. Because what is that, like his 6th or 7th UFC fight? He's gonna have 2 titles out of that, and like he doesn't have many more pro fights than that. And like if Alex Pereira pulls that off, it's an incredible story. And like I say, I feel like they were saying Jiri's injury was a pretty serious one. So
it was his Achilles, man.
No, it was his shoulder.
No, it was his shoulder. But
Jamal Hill tore his Achilles.
Oh, it was
the other
yeah,
champion who had to give up the belt. Yeah,
he got the Achilles. Man, that's a nasty one too.
It was a bad one. The shoulder, supposedly, like it was pretty serious. So we'll see how he comes back. Look, both guys are super fun, and it's gonna be a firework fight. I think Jiri's a little wilder. You know, he likes to brawl maybe a little bit more than Pereira, and Pereira's more technical. So I'm gonna go with probably Pereira winning that fight. I got Pereira.
We talked about it a little bit last week when it was made, and my feeling on it was, Pereira looked good against Jan Blachowicz, but I think Jiri is a different level, and I think Yuri's a different level of power. And the fact that Pereira got knocked out by Israel Adesanya makes me wonder, like, will Jiri be able to knock him out too? And I know what you're saying about the shoulder. Is he 100%? How's he feeling? What's training been like? What's his overall condition? And those are serious questions, but I feel like Jiri Prochazka is such a dangerous guy. We haven't seen him defeated. We haven't seen him really struggle too much. I mean, he had a tough fight there with Glover Teixeira, but he did wind up winning. Like, he finds a way to win. He's in the prime of his career. He's 30 years old. I think he can bounce back from the injury at 30 years old and be all right. Whereas, Pereira's 36. It's, he's getting up there. And light heavyweight and heavyweight, you have a little bit more of a shelf life. You can be in your late 30s and still compete at the top level at light heavyweight and heavyweight more than you can in the lower weight classes. But still, I feel like the athleticism from Prochazka, the chin, the power is going to be a little much for Pereira to handle. I think Jiri might put Pereira away quick. But if he doesn't, then it could get interesting. Then maybe, I feel like the betting play on this fight is Jiri by knockout, Pereira by decision. You know what I'm saying? If Jiri can smoke him in the first 10 minutes, Jiri. But if he can't, and Pereira's managing the distance and hitting him when he needs to and winning rounds, then I think Pereira might be able to get the decision. I don't think Pereira's going to be able to put Jiri away. I don't know if he's got the power at 205 that he does at 185, especially against some of these big 205ers that are coming in at 225, 230 the night of the fight. Jiri is big.
Yeah, he's big.
I got Jiri, but it's a good fight. I'm not sure what the odds are on that one yet. But
it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up right now, and that's the thing. I mean, it's hard to really know who has the bigger edge. But if you're going to look at it from an MMA perspective and not a kickboxing or Muay Thai fight, I mean, both of these guys, their stand-up is deadly. The only difference between the two is that Jiri, I agree with you. He's much bigger. I think he's physically stronger. He has all the attributes. The only thing is that he gets a bit wild when he's striking. He has this crazy style. If he goes into this really unorthodox style, he's going to put a lot of damage on Pereira. But what the key to win against Pereira is to really do a complete MMA game, which means not only you strike, you got to keep this guy in the clinch. You got to bring him down to the ground. If you turn it into an MMA fight as opposed to a complete Muay Thai or kickboxing fight, Jiri is going to beat Pereira because Pereira is not wild. He's going to calculate his strikes, calculate the kicks. He's going to, try to wear down the body and then obviously try to do what he does and knock you out. But I think, and we don't know how bad this injury is because we haven't seen him fight since. But if we look at him before his injury, on paper, Jiri, with the amount of experience that he has, 29-3, should be able to beat Pereira, an 8-2 fighter. But, we'll see, man.
Right now, Jiri Prochazka plus 120, Alex Pereira minus 140 over at bet99.com.
Yeah. Still toss-up, man.
Pereira, though, is the favorite, which I'll take that. I got Jiri. Yep. I like Jiri as an underdog in a championship fight. No problem.
Yeah, I'm on your side on that one.
Yeah.
If I had no choice right now, who would I go with? Knowing that the guy's coming back from injury, which we've seen a lot of fighters coming back from injury. Sometimes it went their way. Sometimes you obviously know that, they're done. But we'll know in the first round, man. If in the first round, man, he's having a hard time, striking and really controlling in the clinch and all that kind of stuff, it's going to be a bad day for him. But Jiri, on paper, man, should be able to beat Pereira. But he has to have a complete MMA game. Like I said, if he does that, he's going to win it.
Yeah, mixes in takedowns too, might help.
Yep.
Put Pereira on his back. Not a bad idea, given Pereira's excellent striking. I mean, if you want to fight him, you'd rather fight him on the ground than fight him standing up. But Jiri is a hell of a stand-up fighter too. So
exactly.
And does Jiri, like, I see Jiri as wanting to strike also. Like, yeah, he has more MMA experience, but does he really have enough wrestling to, like, feel confident where I'm going to try to take him down and it's going to work? Because, like, if it doesn't succeed, then you're spending a lot of energy and that might change the whole fight. So I see this fight as being a striking battle. I really doubt that Jiri would go to the wrestling, but hey, who knows? We've seen some strange things before in MMA.
Jiri versus Pereira is the fight. Fred thinks Pereira's going to win. AJ and I going with the slight underdog right now, plus 120, Jiri Prochazka. That fight taking place UFC 295. Dana White said that Jamal Hill, who was the champion but got hurt, is next. Fred, who do you have, Jamal Hill or Alex Pereira?
It's a tough one, man. I've underestimated Jamal Hill often. I've picked against him, and he's made me look bad often. So I struggle to do that. But like I say, I'm a big Pereira fan. I like what he's done. And yeah, I know Izzy knocked him out, but I like this fight against Yan. I think Pereira's a solid fighter. So, and he's not injured. That's another thing. Like, coming back from injury, I'm always tentative to pick you, especially if it's going to be a quick turnaround. Because, like, I'm no doctor, but Achilles, I feel it takes a little time to heal. Like, you got to be out like for a year at least, I would think. But
yeah.
We'll see.
And when you're out for a year, you're not moving around the way you should. And what does that do to your fight game when you do come back and start training again? So I don't know, but I've got Jiri in both. I've got Jiri beating Pereira and then Jiri beating Jamal Hill too. I've got Jiri. I want to see Jiri versus Ankalaev. That's the fight I've wanted to see for a while. Maybe one day we'll get it. Maybe not, though.
Ankalaev is fighting in 2 weeks, so.
Oh, right. Who's he fighting again? He's got a good fight.
Johnny Walker.
Oh, yeah. Ankalaev's going to smash through that Johnny Walker.
It's going to be a hard drink, man.
Paulo Costa, Khamzat Chimaev, Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira. Magomed Ankalaev, Johnny Walker, Tim Elliott, Mohamed Mokaev. Got some fights on this one.
Aliskerov guy also is pretty good there. What's his name?
Ikram Aliskerov against Nasruddin Imavov. Oh, man. Sharabuddin Magomedov against Bruno Silva. Sharabuddin. I like it. Yeah, that card's going to be fun. That afternoon card, too, right?
That Aliskerov guy has
what time
only
is it
one
at?
loss, and it's the Khamzat.
Ooh.
He's a solid fighter.
Khamzat's a beast. UFC is talking about, Strickland Adesanya seem like the matchup, but maybe somebody else. A lot of guys at middleweight, Sean Strickland
Adesanya
saying
just got in some trouble.
Yeah, exactly. Strickland saying he wants a different fight, and Adesanya got arrested. Adesanya got arrested like a month before the Strickland fight. He got arrested in August, like early August, and he fought Strickland in September. He got arrested for drunk driving in New Zealand. He could face like 3 months in jail, too. Wheels falling off that Adesanya train. The drunk driving, you fight a month later, you lose to Strickland. It's like, uh-oh. And now the UFC is kind of saying, maybe Adesanya's not next, maybe da-da-da. And I think, like, Khamzat, he beats Paulo Costa, he smashes Paulo Costa, they do Khamzat and Sean Strickland. They throw Khamzat right in there. Why not? Khamzat's cool. Yeah. And that'd be a crazy fight. Imagine Khamzat and Sean Strickland. What would you guys rather see? Israel Adesanya, Sean Strickland, the rematch, or Khamzat versus Sean Strickland for the belt?
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I've said, I think, look, I think Izzy is one of the greats. I think he's been super active in recent years. This guy's averaging like 3 fights a year for the past 4 or 5 years. So he's been super active. I think Izzy should take time off. Now, you tell me that's the rematch, I'm going to be super hyped. Like, I'm always hyped for a Israel Adesanya fight. But if I'm him, I'm taking at least 6 to 8 months off and reassessing everything, and then take my title shot. And then I say, like, hey, I've been a champion a long time. I won the title twice. I don't need a setup fight. I want my title fight. So in the meantime, you do like Strickland against Khamzat or Strickland against Duplessis, and Izzy after that, just like take a little time off, work on some stuff, personal stuff also, like get your focus there, because getting arrested for drunk driving a month before the fight ain't great. And fix all that and come back strong, man.
I think
you're
Izzy
right.
takes a
You're
pause.
right.
I think Fred's right. And honestly, like, forget about what's fair. I'm just saying, what do you want to see? I want to see Khamzat and Sean Strickland. Like, I know it's fair that Israel Adesanya gets a shot because he's whatever. But Khamzat against Sean Strickland, like the build to the fight itself. Unless Khamzat gets beat up by Paulo Costa. Like, let's not forget,
It's Paulo Costa.
Paulo Costa is a big step up in competition at middleweight for Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat's fought some good welterweights, but this is a big step up. Paulo Costa is legit.
Yep. And he's a big physical welterweight, middleweight. Like Costa, he's probably going to have some size advantage on Khamzat, I think, on that fight.
Yeah, he might. But don't you think Khamzat's still going to ragdoll him like he does everybody else? I still feel like, Costa's tough and all this, but Khamzat, he's got smashing power,
But it's the reach of Khamzat that's going to make the difference. Because if Paulo Costa can't get into that pocket and do what he likes to do and ragdoll him, it's going to be a rough night. I'm just saying that Khamzat's reach is going to be the big factor where, I'm a big Paulo Costa fan. I liked him, he's a great fighter, but he's going to have a hard time. I think Khamzat is going to pepper him through that fight, man, and really punish him. That reach is too big, man, or too long, I should say. It's going to be an interesting fight, man. But
that's interesting. Khamzat does have like a 3-inch reach advantage on him. And he's taller.
Yep.
That's weird. Is Khamzat bigger than Paulo Costa?
I think
How did
so.
he make middleweight? I guess he didn't. He was like 180 for a 170 fight, right? Wasn't he? Remember he was supposed to fight Nate Diaz? Remember that? He screwed up that last pay-per-view for the UFC completely. Yep. He was supposed to fight Nate Diaz in the main event, but then it got screwed up because everybody started fighting, and Khamzat missed weight. So then they did Khamzat against Kevin Holland, and Nate Diaz fought Tony Ferguson.
But there's already
they switched it all up.
Wasn't there also a bit of bad blood between Paulo Costa and Khamzat at one point where they started fighting as well?
I think there was something maybe during that event too. Yeah,
during the gym they got into a scrap and it got really like the two teams almost went at it. Like, so the build up to this fight is going to be interesting, because they could start, hashing out that whole episode that happened, which I think you could find on YouTube or whatnot. But
yeah,
it's going to be interesting, man.
Khamzat fights with everybody. Khamzat does not play well with others.
He doesn't. But he's really cool when he does it too. Like, he has this smirk and he has that face where he's like mocking you, and he doesn't go like loco, he's I like him. He's
one of these guys though. Khamzat, I feel like Sean Strickland is one of these guys that if they were not MMA fighters, they would be dangerous criminals. They would just be dangerous individuals that you would not want to cross paths with. They're just they love the violence. They're in it for the violence. Yep. They're in it for the chaos.
Yep, you're right, down. Man. And well, that's the thing with Sean Strickland. You're absolutely right, man. He's in it because he likes to fight. He's been fighting since he was young. He's had a pretty rough life and whatnot. What made him who he is, but. He likes to fight. And like I said, in his training camp, he is so mean with his partners that he's fighting like he's fighting for a title. So that's the difference. And it's the same thing with Khamzat. Khamzat likes to fight with everyone. So this is going to be a fireworks fight, man. It's going to be interesting if they ever, if it ever happens.
Sean Strickland had some sort of quote the other day when I was like, I'm starting to warm up to him a little bit. Like, I don't know. Maybe he's not.
What
all bad.
about the kids or what? Which quote?
Yeah, he said something about like how he's in it for the working man or something. I don't know. Just the way he put it, I was like,
Well,
you know, he cut a little promo, and I was like, this guy seems like maybe he's not so bad. Maybe like he said some dumb shit, but who hasn't said some dumb shit in their lives? You know what I mean? Like maybe he's repenting for all the dumb shit and kind of turning over a new leaf. I think becoming champion may be good for him. He's kind of realized like, oh, maybe this ain't so bad. Maybe I could be a source for good. Like people are like happy for him, and you know, I think it's a different vibe for Sean Strickland as the champion. I can't find the quote.
Yeah, I remember. But look, he's an interesting character, but he's rough around the edges. But he's really, I think he barks more than he bites. You know, like with his character, and you know, he kind of rubbed me in a better way, like in his interviews and whatnot, and in the last little while. But you know what? No one saw that coming.
He had a message to his fans. It was pretty good. Trying to get it.
I like guys that are unfiltered, so he falls in there.
Yeah.
I could appreciate, even though he says a lot of crazy stuff. I appreciate it.
Well, like Bryce Mitchell, man, coming into the ring, man, that was like that was classic, man. I'm telling you. Freedom!
Yeah, what was that?
That was awesome,
Bryce
man.
Mitchell, when he came into the cage, he takes a Bible, lifts it up in the air, and yells, "Freedom!" And then after the fight with Dan Ige, he's like, please, man, we need to pray. And Dan Ige's like, okay, I guess. Like, Ige didn't seem like he wanted to, and Mitchell's like, no, we must pray right now together. I was like, what? I couldn't tell if Ige wanted to or not.
Ige said he had no problem to. He was happy. Ige said he was a man of faith also.
Okay.
But you got to give it to Bryce Mitchell, because he kept talking about, like, you know, the Hawaii disasters, and like he said some things that, you know, some people might have found controversial or whatnot, but he was like, he gave, I don't know how much he donated to the wildfires, and he was asking people to donate and whatnot. Like, Bryce Mitchell is a wild, like, firecracker, but man, you know, he ended it pretty well, man. It was pretty interesting way to end the fight, like, you know. He's a character, yeah. Bryce Mitchell. Him and Strickland, man. You know? I bet you they love NASCAR. Like Freddie.
I don't know how that ties into anything.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen Fred with a Bible. I don't think Fred goes to church. Bryce Mitchell.
Freddie Garcia. You don't get more Spanish than that. I guarantee you he does.
Fred? You want to settle this?
Freedom!
Are you reading the Bible?
Baptized.
What?
I've been baptized.
Yeah, but it was a long time ago. I mean, does that still count?
Well, the next time, if we ever get a jiu-jitsu meeting ever again, Freddie, we'll get down and start praying, man.
Cool. I'll pray with you, AJ.
There you go. You see, Dave? That's how it's done.
Baby Jesus, all 3 ounces of you wrapped in a diaper.
Please help me win this fight.
That's the Will Ferrell prayer from Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
Like I prefer
to pray to the baby Jesus. I like the baby version.
I like the Spanish version.
If you're not first, you're last.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That sounds so better, man. Spanish Jesus is the best.
All right, guys. I'll be back tomorrow night with Johnny North to talk pro wrestling. Okay. Johnny North is in the chat, by the way. He says he's got 2 tickets under your name at the door, AJ.
So if anybody listening has a fake AJ ID, just show up before AJ and ask for the tickets. And...
Yeah.
See, I'm AJ.
I mean, you may not even have to show ID. You could just say you're Anthony D'Alessio, and they may just give you the tickets. Like, they may not ask for ID. Who knows? You know?
No. You know, when I walk in, I'm gonna do the whole show, man. I'm going to do the whole Connor walk. I'm going to do everything, man. You know me. Hey, by the way, Johnny.
Good. I'm glad I'm not walking in at the same time as you.
But you're going to be sitting next to me, man. So no matter what. Listen,
I
Johnny.
hope not.
Johnny, Do you want
Johnny.
us to dress up in theme?
Johnny,
What do you want
make
us
sure
to do? You want me to
make sure
wear
AJ is not sitting anywhere near me. Make sure I have way better seats than AJ too.
No. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Listen, Johnny, do you want us to be dressed up in theme? Because I'm coming with PR Mark. We want to know.
In theme?
In theme, man. We got to dress up for Johnny, man.
I don't know what that
theme,
means.
Man. Like, you want us to dress up in character? You want me to wear my, where is my Khabib hat? You want me to wear my Khabib hat to the fight? Just let us know.
Lior
says
says
the people behind you is gonna hate you, man. Don't do that.
Don't do that, AJ.
Yeah, who cares, man? It's wrestling, dude. Did you see some of those people, man? It's wild.
Lior has a great question. Who was wearing the devil mask at the end of Dynamite last night? That's what I'd like to know.
Joe Rogan
was wearing that devil mask at the end of Dynamite. Who were those guys attacking Jay White? Was it MJF with the Kingdom guys? That was my thought. I was like, well, that's the MJF devil mask, so maybe that's MJF, and that's Roderick Strong, and that's Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. Because it was 4 guys, and maybe it's all a big swerve, and Roderick Strong is really with MJF, and it's all a big ruse, and MJF had that promo with Jay White, so it makes sense, especially with his devil mask, but maybe that's what they want you to think, and it's somebody else. I don't know. Maybe it was Rikishi who did it for The Rock, who did it for the people. I don't know who it was. Maybe it was Hulk Hogan, brother, because AEW's finally landed a megastar, and Hogan's running wild. Like, maybe it was Edge. Edge's contract apparently is up on Fred's birthday, which is Saturday, and then October 1st, AEW has a pay-per-view, Wrestle Dream. Maybe Edge will show up, and it will be Edge for some reason attacking Jay White, but why would he attack Jay White? People are saying it's Andrade and Los Ingobernables attacking Jay White because Andrade hates Jay White. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's Andrade. Many questions. Good question, though, Lior, because that's something that's been running through my mind all day after watching Dynamite last night. Who were those guys? It was a weird ending to Dynamite. Because that Hangman promo basically sucked with Swerve. Like, that shit was garbage. But then the after was like, what? What is this? Who are these masked gentlemen leading into a pay-per-view? So that was good. John will talk more about that with me tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern, right after SmackDown here for Wrestling Uncensored on the Ringside Report Network. I'll be on Sunday night right after AEW's Wrestle Dream to recap all the pro wrestling action, which will be real exciting. AEW Wrestle Dream will feature Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. Fred, this is going to be a good pay-per-view on Sunday. Like, I'm actually excited for it. I think they're going to do something really good this Sunday. Seattle is a hot wrestling crowd, especially for Bryan Danielson. So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'll be watching
Seattle.
Gordon Ryan, WNO.
Yeah. Wow, that's a good one, Freddie.
Fred's watching Real Grappling. How fancy.
Talk about real grappling. I don't know if you saw, man. I saw Logan Paul training with Volkanovski, with Israel, and Greg Jones.
That's
old
man.
footage. That's super old.
No, man. Not
Yo,
with
get
Alex
with
Jones.
the times, man.
Listen,
all
did
right,
you see what
show's
the
over,
Alex
AJ.
Jones-
Stop bringing up
Man,
bullshit.
He choked out Alex Jones, man.
Nice.
That's recent.
All
I saw
right.
that.
Who cares? All
That
right,
was funny,
guys.
man.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning
Alex.
in. I'll see you again tomorrow night right here on the Ringside Report Network.